Hi everyone, this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make a bracelet with the newest treasure bags, the demure and sophisticated in the shells and flowers or flowers and shells collection. So what we are going to be making is this little 3-strand bracelet, and it turns out just beautiful. I really like the way it turned out. It's one of my favorite pieces so far. Of course, I've only made a couple from the bag, but this is just adorable. Let me get you real close, and then I'll show you the one on my wrist. So this is from the demure bag, and this one is from the sophisticated bag. And I want you to see how the clasping looks on the back with your little rose and your dangle, and then the front. And I'll see if I can take this off and show it to you off the wrist. There we go. And these are what these look like. So let me put them side by side so you can see them. If it will quit sticking to me there, and why it's sticking, I don't know. Don't ask me. I must have a little open jump ring. I'll have to adjust that. But that's what that looks like. And let me bring you in a little bit centered, and we'll zoom in and look at them. So see how pretty that is. That's just so pretty. So let's go ahead and look and see what it takes to make these bracelets. And I want to let you know, at the time of this recording, I still have some treasure bags left in both colors. Now, they're going pretty quickly out the door. So if they are still available when this airs, I will put a link in the description box beneath the video player, and I will put a link in the comments for where you can purchase the treasure bags. Because everything you need for this, except for a few components like jump rings and wire, are in that bag. Otherwise, it's a techniques video. Find something similar and follow along. Okay, today we are going to be making a 3-strand bracelet with the newest treasure bags. They are shells and flowers, and they come in 2 colors, sophisticated and demure. So I've already done the demure sample here so you can see it, but I'll show you what I used in it. And on video today I'll be using the sophisticated bag colors. So what we're going to be using is this little strand of 3x4 star cut beads that you have in both bags. In sophisticated you have this black color, and in the demure bag you have this wheat color. We'll be using almost the entire strand of these, not quite. Then we'll be using the little flower beads that we have in our treasure bags. We're going to be using one of those. So, of course, black for sophisticated and white for demure. And then you have a strand of 6mm pearls. And you're going to be using the glass pearls in either gray or cream, depending upon your bag. And then we are going to be using, and this is mutual for both colors, some 20 gauge wire. This is Wire Elements by Beadsmith, and we'll be using some of that. And again, it's 20 gauge in the gold color. We're going to be using some 8/0 and 15/0 seed beads. These are Toho, and they are galvanized permanent finish Starlight. We will also be using 2 little reducer components that came in your bag. So these are 3-strand reducer component, and you have 2 of them, and they're in your findings bag. We'll be using those. We will also be using a lobster claw clasp and 3 or 4 8mm jump rings and 1 4mm jump ring for our clasping. Of course, you can use whatever clasping you'd like, but I'm going to show you with how I did it. And that's what we're going to be using, although you will also need a size 12 or 11 beading needle. I'm using a size 11. And then we will also need some 6-pound fire line. And I'm using the thermally fused crystal color in the fire line. So what you will do is you will put onto your needle about 4.5 to 5 feet of thread, And you can go a little shorter if you'd like. You'll need to extend during this project. So I will put a video in the description box beneath the video player, a link for a video that will show you how to extend your fire line if you do not know how. So I'm going to start with about 4.5 feet on my needle, get that threaded, and we'll get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a herringbone stitch with crystal to go down the center of the bracelet. So you're going to need one of your little component ends, and you're going to start with 4 8/0 seed beads, and then we will be working with the 3x4 crystals, the star cut crystals. So we're going to begin by picking up 4 8/0 seed beads onto our needle, and we're going to bring them down to the end of the thread. And we have a lot of thread right now, so just draw them all the way down and then go up 2 of the 8/0 seed beads, the 2 closest to the tail. Hold on to the tail, hold on to those 2 8/0s, and pull your working thread until they lay together like this, all 4 of them. Now we're going to sew back through these, so we're going to go from this side to this side, and then we're going to cross over again. We're in this bead, cross over and go up the 2 on this side, just like this. Now we're going to attach our clasping so that we can begin our project. So we're going to attach to the middle section here. Let me back up just a little so you can see what I'm doing. And we are going to pick up 2 15/0 seed beads and an 8/0 and drop them down to your little piece that you've started. Then, let me get in a little closer. We're going to pick up our clasp, or our reducer actually, and go through the middle loop and pull this down to that 8/0 seed bead. Then we're just going to go back into just the 8/0. So just the 8/0 like this, hold on to it and pull everything together. Now I'm going to turn it over so I have my little rhinestones on the top here, and this will be the front of my bracelet. So this is what I have, just like this. We're going to pick up 2 15/0s, and we're going to go into the 2 beads on this side, so go straight down both of them. Hold on to it and just pull the thread. It's going to want to wrap around your component. Just pull it, straighten it out until you get something that looks like this. Now I'm just going to cut this tail down just a little bit and leave some tag there, but I just want it out of my way. So now I am going to cross over again and go up through all the beads on this side. So I'm going through the 2 8/0s, I'm crossing over from this side to this side, 2 8/0s, 2 11/0s, the 8/0 under the clasp, or the 8/0 under the component, and through the loop of the component, and pull this down. And now I am going to go down, back into the 8/0, and then I'm just going to go into the first 8/0 seed bead right here. Not both of them, just the one. Then I'm going to cross over and go into the one on this side. This is going to join these beads together a little bit better. So just cross over, go into 1 8/0 on the opposite side, up through the 2 15/0s, through the 8/0 on the top here, like this. And I seem to want to get out of camera, so let's see if I can stay in camera, just like this. Then we're going to pull this down. Pull your thread until it goes in between the 2 8/0s on the top here, just like that. And this is what you should have. Now we're going to sew all the way down to the bottom 8/0 on this side. So go back into your 8/0 underneath your component, and the two 15/0s and the two 8/0s underneath them. Like this. And pull your thread through. Okay, so now we are going to begin a herringbone stitch with just crystal, which can be a little bit hard to pull them down and get them arranged on the first couple, but I'll show you what we need to do that. So the first thing you're going to do is pick up 2 of your crystal onto your needle, and then you're going to cross over from the bead you're in into the bead next to the one you're coming out of. So just one, don't go up both of them, just one, and pull your thread through. And you're going to see your crystal does not want to lay next to each other very well, so you're just going to have to arrange until it will. So just keep pulling on it and arranging it until you have no slack and both your crystals lay right next to each other. Like that. Okay, I'm going to have to do something with this camera. I cannot stay in camera. Here we go, just like this. Now we're coming out of this 8/0, we're going to cross over, and we are going to go into this crystal and the 8/0. So cross over into the 8/0 and then go down into the crystal underneath it. And just hold them together. They're going to loosen. Pull your thread through and just pull them down. Arrange them so that they lay nicely together, like so. Then pick up 2 more of your crystal, and we're just going to do a herringbone with just the crystal. So pick up 2. You're coming out of this bead, you're going to cross over into the bead next to it, and just that bead, and then pull your thread through. And again, arrange your crystals so that they will lay next to each other. Just like that. Now pick up a 15/0 seed bead, and we're going to cross over and go into both of these crystals on this side. Pick up the 15/0, go into both of these crystals right here. The 15/0 will cover the little thread bridge that goes in between the crystals. So this is what we have so far. I'll get in just a little closer if I can stay in camera, and we'll do another stitch here. So we're going to pick up 2 crystals, onto our needle, and we're just going to cross over. We're coming out of this crystal, we cross over into this one, and just the one, and hold on to your piece and pull your thread through. Draw them down and arrange them. And they get a little easier as you get more stitches done. So now we've got these arranged down. We are coming out of this crystal here. We pick up a 15/0. We're going to cross over and go down 2 crystals. So you're coming up 1, you're going down 2, and you're placing a 15/0 in between the beads. So we're going to go down 2 crystals like this. As you pull this down, you want to just kind of push on your crystals, tighten them, and arrange your 15/0 so it lays right between those beads. With these black ones, I probably should have used smoke fire line. So you may want to use smoke fire line for this. It probably would look better, and I should have done that, but I didn't. So keep that in mind. Now I'm going to pick up 2 crystals. I'm going to cross over and go into the crystal next to the one I'm coming out of. My thread's getting caught. And just pull these up. And arrange them so that they lay nice next to each other. Like so. Now again, we're going to pick up a 15-0 seed bead. We're coming out of this bead here. We're going to cross over and go up through 2 beads on this side. Just like this. And pull it through. Tighten everything. Make sure you tighten it, or it's going to look very thready. So you can see as I tighten that helps the look of the thread. You can still see a tiny bit of thread there, but if you use smoke fireline, you won't see it with the black beads. Definitely use the crystal fireline for the peach beads on this one, see? Okay, I'm going to back off just a little just to make sure that I stay in camera, and I'm going to do a couple more of these, and then we'll go off camera and go to length. So it's very repetitious from this point. Pick up 2 crystal. You're coming out of this crystal here, cross over and go up 1. Pull these 2 down. Arrange them. The facets on these make them difficult to arrange, but that's what makes them pretty, so you know. We're going to pick up a 15-0 seed bead now, and we're going to cross over and go up 2. So go into these 2 or down 2. It just depends on how you're looking at it. But go through the 2, pull the 15-0 down, and then grab your beads and just kind of push down on your beads and pull straight on your thread. And not so hard that you break anything, just enough to where you get some tension on that. And we're going to continue making units like this until you have 27 herringbone units. And I'm counting I just count one side of the beads because they kind of blend together. So if you just count the outside until you have 27, you know that you're at the length. Now, this, after I put this end on, it's going to be like this. It's going to be about 5 inches from here to here. Because I am doing an extension with my clasping, with the flower and with the clasp itself, and then doing a pearl and an extender, I have 5 inches here. Now, if you need a smaller bracelet, I will end up with about a 7-8 inch bracelet, 7.5 inch bracelet, maybe a little longer. But if you want a shorter bracelet and you want to decrease in the beads themselves, then you can do that. However, you will want to make the body of yours decreased by 3. So you want your beads, your units in the middle, the herringbone units, to be divisible by 3, because on these strands on the side, to make them even so that you come out even with your pearl on either side, to make it symmetrical so you don't end up with a crystal instead of a pearl at the very end, and your bracelet will lay straight. Each one of these 2 beads together, each, I'm going to call that a unit, the crystal and the pearl, is about 3 of your herringbone units. So decrease by 3 or increase by 3 so that you will end up with the proper amount for your symmetry on your other 2 strands. Now I know that's a mouthful, but it's important. So that's what we're going to do. So I've done 27. I'm going to end up with around a 7.5 inch bracelet. So that will give you an idea of where you need to be. Now we need to do this end so that we can attach it to the component. So I have finished my 27th unit here, and I'm coming out of this crystal right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 2 8/0 seed beads, and I'm just going to do another unit of herringbone on top of these last 2 crystals. So I'm coming out here, I'm going to go down into just 1 crystal, and I'm going to pull these 2 8/0s down. Then I'm going to pick up a 15/0 seed bead, I'm going to cross over again and go up 2 beads. So I'm going up the crystal and the 8/0, and I'm going to pull this little seed bead into place, tighten everything so that it looks nice, and then I am going to pick up 2 8/0 seed beads again. I'm going to cross over, go down 1, lay them on top of the previous 2, pick up a 15/0 seed bead, cross over and go up 2 on this side, like this, and pull this down and push that seed bead into place, tighten your thread, and that's what that should look like. I'm going to back off just slightly, and now I'm going to pick up 2 15/0 seed beads and an 8/0, and I'm going to attach to the middle loop on my clasp. So I'm going to drop my 2 15/0s and my 8/0 down, and then I'm going to go into the middle loop of my, I keep calling it a clasp, but it's a component. So go into that middle loop and then go down into the 8/0. Hold on to that 8/0 and pull your thread through and draw the component up to that 8/0 seed bead, just like that. Then pick up 2 15/0s, cross over and go into the 2 8/0 seed beads here, and pull this down. Now we have to reinforce this, so we're going to go through this little 15/0 up this side and through the clasp again. So we're coming out of this 8/0, we're going to go into that 15/0 we just put on, make sure everything stays nice and tight and organized. Go up this side, so we're going to go up the 2 8/0s, the 2 15/0s, the 8/0 on top of them, and through the loop of the clasp. Then we're going to go back down into the 8/0 seed bead, the 2 15/0s on this side, also the 2 8/0s. So just travel down like this and pull this through. Now we are going to, I went all the way down to the crystal here, so I'll just travel through this 15/0 and I'll come back up. You can just go down the 8/0s, but I went down a crystal, which is fine because it helps reinforce that area too. So this time I am going to go up and through again, but I'll include that crystal and see if I can get through all these beads. It doesn't want to, so we're going to go up through the 8/0s here, and I'll see if I can get through my 15/0s. I messed myself up with that crystal, but you know, I'll get under here. Okay. Up the 2 15/0s, into the 8/0, and I'm just going to pull my needle through and then I'll go through the loop. It doesn't have to be that hard, guys. I just, you know, I have my moments. We're going to go through the back of that. Since we didn't go through the clasp or the loop, we're going to go down, and now we're going to go all the way down again on this side, and we are attached and secure. You can do that another time if you would like, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go directly down into 2 crystals, and I'm going to poke my needle through the back of my piece. Then I'm going to turn my piece over, and right here between the beads you can see this little tiny thread bridge right here. I'm going to back off a little or it will blur when I start moving, but you can see that little thread bridge. We're going to go right underneath it with our needle, and we're going to pull the thread through and knot right on that thread bridge. Then we're going to go down a couple more, and don't pull it so tight that you bunch anything. Go under another thread bridge and tie another knot. And then I'm going to go back into the beads, slide down a couple more, and then I'll just leave a little bit of a tag on this, or a little bit of a tail. And then my scissors stink again. I have to sharpen those. Now I will grab my lighter and just get the heat close and just roll that in so you can't see it. And we have the beginning of our bracelet here, the middle row. And we're going to work on putting on the pearl rows now. So we're just going to make another herringbone section, and it's going to be a little bit different this time, and then we will just alternate crystal and pearl. So we'll start that in a moment. Okay, so I have rethreaded my needle with another about 3.5, 4 feet of thread. You want a nice long length. I'm going to set my bracelet aside, and we're going to start with herringbone again. So we're going to do a double ladder stitch, double bead ladder stitch. So pick up 4 of your 8/0 seed beads onto your needle and then pull them to the end of the thread. You don't have to leave a long tail, just enough so it doesn't slip through the beads. And then go back up the first 2 beads on your tail side. Hold on to the tail and then pull, and hold on to the first 2 beads and pull your working thread until the beads come together like this. Then we're going to cross over and go into the 2 next to the 2 we're coming out of. Then we're going to cross over and go back up the 2 previous. Now you need your bracelet again, and we're going to pick up 2 15/0s and an 8/0. Drop them down to the little piece you're working on. And then we're going to go up through the clasp, or the loop. This is just going to be a clasp today, guys, so you know, sorry, but that's what's going to happen. So we're up through that loop there. Then we're going to go down into just the 8/0. I'm going to hold on to that 8/0 and I'm going to pull my thread through. And then I'm going to pick up 2 15/0s, and I'm going to go down into these 2 8/0s on this side. My tail slipped a little, so I'm going to pull on it, secure it a little better. Bring this down, and now I'm going to cross over into both the 8/0s on the opposite side from which I'm at. So just cross over, go into the 8/0s, the 2 15/0s, the 8/0 under the component, and then into the loop. And pull this down. Now go down into the 8/0, 2 15/0s, and just one of the 8/0s. We're going to put the cross thread between these 2 8/0s, like in a traditional herringbone here. So now we're going to cross over and just go into 1 8/0 here. That will pull this unit together nice. and make the beads stay together better once we go through one more time. So I'm crossed over one, and I have gone up to 15 O's, the 8 O, and then into my loop. And I'm going to pull this through. And draw that thread up, keep your tail out of the way, between those two beads and pull them together. And see, that straightens them out, draws them together. Then we're going to go back down into our 8-0, two 15 O's, and then I've got one 8-0 here. The angle is funny, so I'm just going to go through. And then I'm going to go through this one here. Now, I'm going to cut this tail down, leaving a little extra for the moment, but just cutting it down like this. And then we are going to go underneath this thread bridge. So we're coming out of this bead here. We're going to go under the thread bridge between these two beads. And we're going to create a loop as we pull our thread through. And then we're going to go through that loop. And we're going to pull a knot down on that thread bridge and center our thread right between those two 8-0s. And I'm going to do this one more time because I feel like my tail is a little not quite secure enough. So I'm going to cross over, go up these two. Generally, you shouldn't need to do this, but it seems like my stitch didn't go through very well. So I'm crossing over and going through these two again, and then I'm going to tie another knot on the thread bridge to center my thread. So you can correct anything. If your little tail is slipping, you don't feel like your beads are tight, you need to go ahead and sew through it again to make sure it's secure. Now I'm going to go under the thread bridge between the two beads, create a loop, and I'm going to pull a knot down just like that. And now when I get all done, I can burn that little tail down or cut it down, use your thread zapper, whatever. But now I want to start stringing. So what I'm going to do is, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'm going to put on 11 pearls with a crystal in between. So let me open my pearls. And I'm just going to pick up a pearl and then a crystal, and I'll alternate until I have 11 pearls. We'll start with a pearl and finish with a pearl. So I'm just going to drop this down like this. And we're just going to continue putting those on until we have all 9 pearls, alternating with the crystal. And then we'll come back and we'll attach it to the other end. And we have to sew through. We have to do a couple of things to make this secure. So we'll be back in a moment once we have our beads on. Okay, so I have strung my pearls, and it's 11, not 9. I don't know why I said 9, but it's 11 alternating with the crystals in between. So start with a pearl, end with a pearl, and once you have this, make sure that your center didn't twist, that your rhinestones are up as you attach this, because if you have your thing twisted at this point, you're not going to be able to untwist it. Make sure that when you attach your strands, you attach them with the crystals up on your components. Now, this is kind of a little different here. I'm going to move this around so I can get to it better. I just want it, and here's where you twist your component here. So what I want to do is I want to work with these pearls for a minute before I actually attach this end. So what we have to do is we have to pick up 2 8-0 seed beads. Now I'm going to get in a little closer. We're going to go back into this pearl here. I'm just going to go through a couple, pull this through, holding on to those pearls, as you can see, and just pull this up. Make sure those 2 8/0s lay out in herringbone fashion and just pull on it. And tighten it so that you don't have any slack and they're laying next to each other nicely right on top of that pearl. So you're going to have to adjust it for a second. And this is what it should look like. I'll get you close so you can see that. And you can see I just went through a couple of them. Now I have to sew all the way back through this. There's a couple of reasons why. It's because it's going to be able to help me anchor my pearl correctly up here, as well as it's going to make this much stronger, because if you just string beads with fire line, it's going to break, especially since we have crystals here. So we want to go through it a couple of times, and then we'll create our herringbone on this side and we will attach it to the component. So now I'm just going to go back into all of these beads, and I'm just going to slide my needle through until I get all the way to the end. So I'll just take a few at a time, pull my thread through, and gently arrange it as I do it. I mean tighten it, not arrange it. And just whatever words just want to come out of my mouth, just fly out, I don't know. At least they're not bad words this time. Okay, up we go. We're just going to keep traveling up these beads all the way. I'll go as many as I can, and then I'll just pull my thread through. And then I'll tighten it and then go up through, continuing right where I left off. Okay. So now when you come through this very last pearl, just come through, pull all your thread through. Make sure that you have no slack, so pull on it like this, and then come up through this side, the inside towards you, 8/0 seed bead, cross over into the 8/0 next to the one you just came up through and go down through it. All right, let me get my hands in a better position here. So I'm coming up through this 8/0, I'm going to cross over and go down into this one, and then down into my pearl, and a couple of beads underneath it. Now what this does is it's going to attach that pearl to both of those 8/0 seed beads instead of just being attached in the center where we tied the knot after we made the herringbone in the 8/0s. Now we have to slide all the way down these pearls again. So go ahead and sew all the way down to the end, and I'll come back and show you what we're going to do next. Okay, so I've slid all the way up all my beads, and now I'm coming out of this 8/0 seed bead here. So when I came through the last pearl, I came up this 8/0. Now I'm going to just turn my piece. Now as you move it around, you've got to be careful because things will turn and twist. So you have to make sure when you attach something that you straighten it back out, because you'll end up on the wrong side of your bracelet. The 15/0 seed beads need to be towards the top. The rhinestones on the component need to be towards the top. So just keep straightening that out to make sure that things are going to go together well. Now, here we are coming out of this bead right here. Let me get this, yeah, just like that. Okay, and I'm going to pick up 2 8/0 seed beads. And I'm going to go down into this 8/0 on this side. So I'm just crossing over, going down into the 8/0. And now I have to cross back over and go into the 8/0 on this side. And I'll pull that tight. Now we have to make sure everything's straight because we're going to attach it to our clasping, and then we'll sew back down through it and tie off. So lay everything out, make sure your 15 O's are on top, your rhinestones are forward on both sides of your bracelet, and then pick up two 15 O seed beads and an 8 O and drop that down to your piece. And then, I just can't get arranged here. And then we're going to go into the loop on the component, and then we're going to go back through the 8 O seed bead and just the 8 O. So hold on to it and pull it through. Make sure everything is how you want it. Pick up two 15 O's. And let me get in camera a little bit better here. Pick up two 15 O's. And then go down into these two 8 O's on this side. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to hold it so you guys can see, and it just doesn't want to, my hands don't want to do that. They want to work how they want to work. Okay, so we've gone through that. Now we need to sew up through this a couple of times to secure it. So we're going to cross over, go up both the 8 O's, and then go into the 15 O's, the 8 O, and the loop. And pull it through. Tighten it so everything draws up tight against those 8 O's on the very bottom. Go back through. And down both 8 O's here. Let's cross over and do that one more time. So we want to go through it and reinforce it at least 3 times. If you're very hard on your bracelets, do it as many times as you can without filling those little 15 O's too much and you can't get through them. Also, the 8 O is drawn up very tight, so after the third pass, it's kind of difficult to get back in. I'm going through just one 8 O, but I'll pick up the other. So now I'm going to go into this 8 O. I just have to do this. Sorry guys, I have to move it around. My hands do not want to work that way. So then I'm going to go down into the pearl, just slide through a few beads. I'll straighten this out and let you see what I've got. So this is what I've got so far, just like this. Got to straighten everything out. There we go. That looks better. Now we're going to travel down and maybe go through these 2 bottom ones again and then come through and knot it. So I'm just going to go ahead and travel down all the way again, just because this is going to make the bracelet so much stronger, and we really need that pearl anchored to that herringbone up top. Otherwise it'll just kind of be floating there and it won't be balanced, and we need it balanced. So I'm just going to continue sewing up. And it doesn't take that long, and it's not that hard to do. I know some people have yelled at me for the extra sewing through I do, but really, if you want your bracelet to be nice and strong, it's not that big of a deal to do. Okay, so I'm coming up through the pearl now. I'm going to go up through the herringbone one more time. I'm just going to go through one bead, cross over, go down into the other bead, and then down into my pearl. Okay, so now I'm going to slide down a couple of pearls, and I am going to, pearls and crystals, and I'm just going to tie some knots in between them. So let me see if I can get back into this. So I pulled it pretty tight. So I'm going to go about down to about here, a couple of beads, doesn't matter where. And now I'm going to go underneath my strand with my needle. I'm going to push the thread between the crystal and the pearl and create a loop right there between the beads, and make sure it's between the beads, and then go through your loop and tie a knot down on the threads that are running through your crystals and pearls, and then straighten it all out. Make sure that you have everything straightened out and that when you pulled your knot you didn't bunch anything. So just straighten it all out and then sew down a couple more and tie a couple more knots. So I'm going to go right here. Whoops. Holy schmoly. You thought I was gonna cuss. I don't cuss. Well, that's a lie, but I don't cuss bad. I try not to. I just don't think it's very ladylike. Okay, now I'm going to make another loop and go through, and I'm just going to guide that thread, make sure it's between the two beads, and I'm just going to sew down a few more. Now you can do this as much as you want. I feel like that's pretty good, so I'm just sewing away from my knot, and I am going to cut it, leaving a little bit extra. And I'm going to pick up my lighter and arrange this to where I can just melt that in right into the pearl, just like that. And then straighten everything back out again. Make sure everything looks good. And there we go. Now, you're going to do the exact same thing we just did here on this side. And we're going to do that off camera. You can back up the video and watch how I did this side if you need to, and do it again. Just make the exact same thing on that side, tie it off, do the entire process, and we'll be back. Okay, so as you can see, I've completed the center portion of my bracelet. I did the third strand exactly the same way I did the second strand. And now I'm just going to kind of push this back. I have cut a piece of 4.5 inch in length 20 gauge wire, and we are going to make a component for our clasping with this. So we're going to start by picking up our piece of wire, and I'm just going to hold it straight up, and I'm going to back off a little so I actually stay in camera. I am going to go about 1.5 inches down on this wire. So let me measure that real quick and make sure I have 1.5 inches right there. So I have 1.5 inches above my plier. I'm holding my plier so that it is flat, and then I push the 1.5 inches over the back portion of the plier. Then I'm going to turn my wire, staying inside the bend of wire I just created, and my plier is now vertical. I'm going to bring that wire over the top of the plier here, and I'm going to go about 3/4 way around, and then I'm just going to reposition my plier so that it is flat, and then I am going to bring that loop around the bottom of the plier. Then I'm going to hold on to the wire, so I'm holding on like this, both parts of the wire, and I am just going to bring my pliers. You can either go towards you or away from you, just rock it back so that it is centered. Mine needed to come a little bit towards me, so I've centered that, just like that. Now I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers, or excuse me, my chain nose pliers, and I'm just going to lift this little loop. So the portion that goes out on this side, you can just lift it up a little bit. And then just grab your clasping and bring it down onto that loop, just like that. Then close your loop again, hold on to your loop, position your pliers straight away from you, and then position that piece of extra wire the same angle as your pliers and parallel to it, as close as you can get it to the pliers. Then I'm turning the plier over and putting it in my left hand so I can wrap with my right hand. And now this wire is underneath the long wire. And I'm just going to grab a pair of chain nose pliers and begin to coil up at the neck of that loop. So I'm going to just do 2 really nice, tight, neat coils. And then I'm going to grab my flush cutters and cut that very close and fling it across the room. You should hold on to that. You shouldn't let that happen. But it did. Now I need to tuck in this little extra piece that's sticking out so it's not pokey. I like to use my regular crimping tool in the first divot, the one that's round, and I just like to push that little extra piece down. There we go. So that it's not pokey. And this is what we have now. Now, if you were to lay this on your bead mat, you want your loop to be laying flat, like that. So that when we do this other half, you have the right position. And of course, we can adjust it if it turns a little bit. This part is a little fiddly, so I'm going to try to stay in camera and do the best I can. So I'm going to drop my flower. There's a little hole in the back here. I'm just going to drop it down onto my wire, holding that loop flat, kind of holding that flower into place, and then I'm going to place my plier right above it. And I'm going to go a little ways down so I get a decent sized loop. Now when you let go, your flower is going to move. Don't worry about it. Just push your wire over the back portion of your plier while your plier is flat. Turn your plier so that it is now up and down or vertical, and then bring the excess wire over the top. Go about 3/4 of the way around. Reposition your plier so that it is flat, and then draw that loop all the way down around the bottom of that plier. And just fiddle with it until it does what you want it to do. Now I'm going to make sure my bottom loop is flat, and I'm just kind of turning this loop so that it is the opposite. So I want this one to be up and down like this. And then I'm going to open this loop and drop my component or my bracelet down onto this loop. Need to open it a little bit more. Once I get this on here, I want my loop to be up and down, and then I'm going to close that loop. Then I can kind of hold it into position here. And it's going to move around, but you want to make sure as you tighten it that your flower is forward towards you. This loop is up and down like this, and the other loop is flat. And then we're going to grab a hold of this loop, and we're going to begin turning, and I'm going to turn with my hands. We're going to turn coils around until we get close to the flower. And then when we get real close to the flower, we can kind of position the flower the way we want it. So we can turn it and begin to get it in the right position. And I'm going to coil right up under it, make it tight, and then kind of go slightly behind the flower, just kind of up and behind the flower with the wire touching the flower on the back so that it actually tightens a little. And when it's in your hand, you'll kind of see what you need to do. Then I'm just going to continue coiling this. I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to move my way down away from the flower and into the middle of my wrap, and just kind of wrap the excess around like that. So this is what you have. And you can see on the back, I've just kind of gone up and over the back of the flower a little bit to hold it where I wanted to hold it. And then I can position my looping, because I need to make sure that it's towards the flowers towards the front of my bracelet. So I can then grab my loop and turn it while I have it in position so that that loop is up and down, the flower is forward, and this loop with the clasping is flat. Just like that. And now I'm going to trim this excess piece off. And I will just tuck it down. I'm going to use my mighty crimpers for this and just tuck it in the best I can, because it's a little bit fatter wrap. So just tuck that in there. And now I'm going to get you really close so you can see the wrap itself. I know it's hard to watch me do that. It's very difficult to stay in camera and not be able to move it however I want to move it and show you exactly what I'm doing. So it's just a basic wrap. There's what the back looks like, and there is what the front looks like. And again, I can position my loops. So I've got that loop. This one's a little off, so let me see how I want to position it. Okay, so actually it's not bad. Just turn it a little bit. Actually, it's not too bad. So that's what that side looks like. And now I want you to cut another 4.5 inch piece of wire, and you're going to need a head pin. I forgot to tell you about that. And we will make the other side of the clasping. And I'm using 3 jump rings to put an extender on it, and these are about 8mm jump rings, and you're going to need 2 pearls. So let me show you what I've got here so you can actually see it, and gather those things together, and let's make the other end of the bracelet. Okay, so now we're going to make the other end of the clasping. Again, I have 4.5 inches of wire, which may be a little excessive for this part, but again, I like to have more than less. So again, I'm going to hold my wire straight up. I'm going to go 1.5 inches down on my wire. Yep, right there. And I'm going to go back towards the back of my plier a little bit because I want this loop to be a little bit bigger in case you don't need to put an extender on it. You can just clasp right into this loop. So I'm going to go back towards the back of my plier a little bit and push my wire over the top of the plier. Turn my plier now so instead of being flat, it is vertical. Bring the wire over about 3/4 of the way. Then just reposition your plier and bring the wire underneath it. Then I'm just going to kind of rock my hand forward to center it. Actually, it needs to come this way a little. And I have a loop like this. Now, we're going to not connect anything to this loop, so we're just going to close it. So I'm just going to grab my flat nose or my chain nose pliers. I just want this loop to look better there. And I'm going to hold on to that loop, and holding my pliers straight, I'm going to bring this extra piece of wire the same angle as my pliers and parallel to them, and then I am going to turn my pliers over and put them in my left hand. And then I'm going to grab another pair of pliers and begin to turn a couple of coils around the neck of this loop. So I'm just going to do like 2 or 3, probably just 2. Just like that. Let me get you a little closer. I'm sorry, I'm a little far away. Just turning a coil. And then I'm going to grab my flush cutters and cut this very short. Then I will tuck in that excess And then just straighten everything out that I've mangled here. So I'm just going to straighten out my loop, make it look nice. Straighten out my wire. And then I'm going to grab a pearl, and I'm just going to put my pearl on. And then grab my round nose pliers, and again, I am going to hold this one so that it is vertical, like this. And then place my pliers on top. So you can see how I'm holding this. Now I'm going to push my, I don't want to be quite that far up, so I'm going to push my wire over and then turn my plier again. Same thing I've been doing, over the top, about 3/4 of the way, reposition my pliers so that they are now flat and go all the way underneath the plier. Rock my hand back a little to center it, and then I can just remove my plier. Now I am going to grab my chain nose pliers and just open this loop. We are going to put this loop onto the bracelet. I have to position this to where I can hold it, so I'm going to be turning it a little bit, but you can see I've just put it on the component loop, and then I'm going to squeeze the loop closed, hold on to it, and I'm going to begin turning. So I'm holding it with my left hand, and I'm going to grab another pair of pliers here and just move this up a little bit. There we go. And begin, I'm just going to turn it with my hand and start coiling, and I'm just going to do a messy coil. So I'm going to try to put them, it's kind of half neat, half messy. So I'm just going to go down around the top of the pearl here, and then just kind of work my way back up, and then I'll grab my pliers and move back up the coil, just like that. So you can see what I've got. Let me get you close. That's what that looks like. And then I'm going to cut this off. And you can make your components and then put them on with jump rings if you want. However, that kind of creates a weakness in the bracelet because jump rings can open, and it also gives you more length. So it's up to you. If you don't want to do all this connecting wire wrapping, you can make your components separately and then connect them to your component, your reducer component with jump rings. Just however it works best for you. And this takes a little manipulation, and it's much easier if I'm not on camera because I can move my piece all over the place. I can put it right next to my eyes if I want to, whatever I want to do. As I'm on camera, I can't do that, so I may look a little clumsy trying to do this. Now, I want to straighten this out. So I will turn this loop flat now. I thought I wanted it vertical, but I want it flat. So I'm going to turn this loop flat, turn this loop vertical, and that's how I want that to look. So you can adjust things so that they work well for you. When it's attached to the component itself, you want the loops to be up and down, and the end ones you want flat, so that when you put it around your wrist, it's positioned correctly to wrap around your wrist without twisting or doing anything weird. So sometimes you just need to adjust it until you get exactly what you want. Of course, it's going to move around a little bit, so, you know. And that's what I've got. Now I made this loop a little bit bigger than I did on my other one, so I'm going to get a little bit more length anyway because of that. And so that changes things a little. Now I may be able to just put this on and clasp directly to that loop. See, if you have a little smaller wrist, you can do that. Now, that would be a little tight around my wrist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little dangle component, and I'm going to put some jump rings on here. So I'm just going to open 3 jump rings and put them on the back portion here. So just grab your jump ring, find your opening, and place plier on either side of it and twist it open. Then drop it on your component, and then put another one on and close your jump ring. Then make sure this jump ring is closed properly too. And then grab another one. And I'm just going to drop this on here, but leave it open so I can drop my little dangle on here. So I'm just going to put that aside. Grab a pearl and drop it on, and I think I want to put a crystal on here too. So I'm going to put a crystal and a pearl on this little head pin, like this, and do the same kind of wrap. Place my pliers right above the crystal and push the wire back. Then I'm going to turn my pliers up and down and bring that extra wire around and reposition my pliers so they're flat. Bring that wire underneath. Rock my hand back a little, and I have a loop. Now I'm going to hold onto this loop with my pliers and then position the excess piece about the same angle as the plier. I'm going to switch hands, and now the wire is underneath the wire that goes down into the beads. And with this one, I can't really use my fingers because these head pins are a little harder. So I'm just going to start coiling down one coil on top of the other until I tighten those beads onto this component here, onto the wire. And I tighten so tight that my gold wire kind of shows the copper color as I tighten. I do things like that. Okay, I'm going to cut the excess off and then try to tuck this in without breaking my crystal here. And now I have a tiny little component, and I can grab my jump ring, drop it on there, and close this last jump ring. And what we have here, oh come on, is 2 bracelets. And get them into camera, and I'll back off a little so you can see them. And this is what we have. I hope that wasn't too confusing. But again, like I said, you can make your little wrapped components and then attach them too. But really, it's a skill that you need to practice, because just attaching something to a component with your wire and wrapping it around is a really secure way to do things. So just kind of practice it. I'm not the best wire wrapper in the world, but I get it accomplished. So just keep practicing until you can get it to the point to where it works well for you. And that's what these look like. I'm going to go ahead and put one on, and I will show you that in the intro. And I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.